Works? Okay, cool. So we can start. Let's not lose any more time. So thanks everyone for staying this late. I didn't expect so many people to be up this late, especially interested in microfrontends. So let's get started. About me and how I came here. So first of all, I'm from Serbia, and I have to emphasize that it's not Siberia, it's not Syria, it's Serbia. It's next to Croatia, and usually people get it at that point. Been in web development for a long time, yeah, so I still enjoy it. I still hate CSS, but that doesn't matter. And I'm doing all kind of sport, and this is probably one of the reasons why I actually joined Adidas in the first place. I've joined Adidas 5 years ago, together with my family, moved to Germany. You can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Okay, so let's start with the story of how we ended up using microfrontends. So this was even before my time joining Adidas. Adidas was using a software as a service solution for e-com, and everything was really nice, except that digital business, fortunately, was growing really, really fast, and there was trouble in paradise. The SaaS platform couldn't really support this. So, of course, let's build our own e-com website. We are a big company. We can invest in that. The first thing you do, you hire a bunch of developers, and you start building something. Well, we actually started building a first website in Polymer, and you can imagine that that went completely sideways. So we started from scratch, building in React, and we managed pretty quickly to develop a first product page, and we released it in Finland, and this was a big success for us. So now we entered the age of monolith. So the new website was really successful. We built all the functionality that we had in the previous website. We rolled it out to more than 40 markets around the globe. And we are actually managing both brands, both Adidas and Reebok. Most people don't know that Reebok was part of Adidas. It's not anymore. It's a pretty big e-com website. So it has around 100 million unique visitors every month. The revenue, of course, in the meantime triples. Now we have 100 plus front-end developers, just the front-end developers. So I'm not talking about the back-end systems, nothing. So we're just talking about the front-end. And we are split in product areas, and it's approximately around 20 teams. We release to production multiple times a week, which means that we are pretty quick. We go through holiday season where we without any big issues, so no major incidents. So that's like the website was a big success. But with that comes a lot of other problems. First of all, we ended up having a monolith in a monorepo, which means that, and we had like more than 80 packages that are interconnected somehow. npm install, clean npm install for us takes around 20 minutes because we have a lot of dependencies. Running a development takes more than 10 minutes. CI pipeline takes 60 minutes to complete. Regression testing, we have end-to-end tests which are written by a QA team. In Java tools, which are running every night. It takes 2 hours to execute that. And then we have manual QA approval. So QAs are actually going in, reviewing the results of the test previous night. They are trying to figure out the false positives and then giving a thumbs up to release. This approximately takes 6 hours every day. But still, we managed to release a couple of times a week, which is amazing. So basically, our application at this point looks like this. Like we have a monolithic front-end application. We have an API, which acts as a gateway to everything else. And we have something that we call BFF, but essentially it's just an SSR for the front-end. SSR for us is super important because we are an e-com website, so SEO and performance is really crucial. And yeah, so... and I have to mention that at this point, this server-side rendering is completely custom because we are talking about very early days of React. So pretty much there's no Next.js, there's no context, there's no hooks, there's nothing like that, right? So we ended up having a React single-page application with Redux, ball of mud. Everything is pretty much tightly coupled, connected to each other. Nothing can be reused outside of the repository. We have also configuration, translations, feature flags, all hard-coded inside of the repository. So whenever we need to change something, it actually requires a redeployment. Rollbacks, rollouts are all or nothing. So you have to, if you want to roll out something, you have to roll out everything. Of course, frustration all over the place. And mono repo, it just keeps growing. So it's basically, we are just piling up features. Of course, nobody's deleting something which is not used anymore. So this thing just keeps growing. And at this point, we realized that we really need some special tooling. And this was like around more than 2 years ago when we started using NX for managing the monorepo. We started, we also have I have a tab open there. I don't know if audience online can see it, but we have our own private instance of NX Cloud, which we use, and it's working pretty well. We managed to do a lot of caching and distributed caching benefits, but still we managed to get the builds from 60 minutes to 45 minutes approximately, right? So that's a good step forward, but it's not what we want. So okay, so now we are thinking that this is not going to scale a lot. So we have to think we have to find a smarter solution. So this is why we ended up establishing this program, which we called Agile Experience Layer, and this is the first lesson learned here. If you want to get a buy-in in an enterprise organization, you just call it Agile something, and it will be sold, right? So nobody argues against that. So so here, and this was our mission. So we wanted to make quick and fast new .com experiences. We wanted to keep consistent look and feel across the website. We wanted to provide a great developer experience while building the website. So how do we do this? Of course, microfrontends, right? So this was our target architecture, right? So first of all, we wanted to, because the site, so we have really a lot of developers, right? And these developers are separated in different departments even, right? So it's not even anymore like the front-end development kind of department for .com. We have more departments than that. And we have side projects coming from many different sides. For example, like a business unit comes in and says, I want some completely custom campaign which doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the website. So instead of just pushing these things to one application, we just said, okay, let's first slice the elephant vertically, and let's have multiple applications, which you see here on the top, which are first separated per product area. So we have upper funnel, which hosts the landing pages and the product pages. Then we have checkout, which is serving the lower funnel of the website, the payments, the creation of the order. And we have account that deals with everything around the user. And we have these side projects, which are the blog, the help pages, etc. And of course, all of these applications and pages are sharing a lot of functionality. So on the bottom, you see some of the micro-frontends that we are building. So header and footer are obviously the first thing that we are going to build. Yeah, so I'll talk about this in a second. Yeah, you can see that there is a lot of them, and the number is growing, right? So and here I have to say a couple of things. So first of all, like we set some hard requirements when we started building this. So first of all, we cannot stop the world. We cannot stop development of the old website and just do this instead. We had to develop stuff in parallel. Second thing is that SSR for us is like crucial requirement. So it cannot work with SSR, without SSR. And the third requirement, which was very interesting, was that we should be able to deploy our micro-frontend on a WordPress website, right? Because we actually had scenarios like this. Basically, we had agencies which were building some blogs, some other blogs, not these blogs, which are deployed using WordPress. So if we wanted, we could deploy, we needed to deploy a micro-frontend even on that website, right? So this, of course, complicates things a lot. And we are talking about a lot of things which exist today are in very early stage of development when we started this, or didn't even exist, right? So this is why you will see something which I won't mention, unfortunately, model federation. So, but bear with me, I'll try to explain how we do things. So essentially, like this is, let's say, high-level flow, how we serve our site. So first of all, on the left side, you see the user. That's easy to spot. In the middle, you see the application, which is basically just an Next.js application. And on the right side, you have the micro-frontend. The micro-frontend, in our case, consists of three main things. The CSS part, the JavaScript part, and the render endpoint, which actually produces the HTML. So Index.js, if you use single SPA, you might notice the similar interface, and this was the inspiration, actually. So we have similar interfaces the single SPA has. We have mount, unmount, and update functions, which are called by the host application. And the render endpoint is basically an endpoint which you can hit with the different query strings, which acts as an input data, and then it responds with some HTML and some metadata, right? So application does rendering in two passes. So the first pass is basically you just render a page with some placeholders for the micro frontends. And then at the next stage, we actually inject, we call the render endpoint and we inject the HTML. So basically, we do server-side inclusion in our own custom way. And when we ship the page to the client, we ship the page with also resources all included alongside with the HTML. And we have our own custom way of making sure that the React hydration works as expected. Okay, so let's see, like this is all backwards. So I will first show how we use the micro frontends in the application, and then I'll go a bit inside how we are actually creating micro frontends. So the first thing here is that you can see that this is just plain React, right? So there's nothing here around some magical stuff that the developers needs to know. They are basically using this custom component, which is called micro frontend client, which has some parameters where to load the micro frontend from, and it also has this flag that says SSR enabled. We support both client-side, server-side rendering. You can turn off server-side rendering if you don't want that, and you just the client is responsible for loading the thing from the CDN in this case. So, and also you see that here in the middle, we have all the child components are rendered as a loader, meaning that this thing will be shown until the micro frontend actually loads and renders on the client side. In this case, this is just a spinner. Okay, how do we create micro frontends? We created a framework for that, which we call Sole. Of course, sole of the shoe makes sense, right? And Sole itself doesn't only have like seeds for creating the micro frontend itself. It's much more than that. It actually offers us, because we are an enterprise company, everything self-hosted. There is pretty much no Netlify-like experience or Veracel-like experience. We have to build these things ourselves, right? So for example, creating a repository, you run a generator, which is like this long command here. Once you get you will get a Bitbucket repo in our case, and you will get Jenkins pipelines created for you, right? So this will be automated. Then, if you want to create a micro frontend, you can run a seed of the project with a command like this, and here you can see that the type is actually micro frontend with SSR. Once you actually run the seed, you will get something like here on the left, where you have like the folder for your client code, the code for the server, and also everything else generated, like the pipelines code, the Docker files, all these things are already generated. If you take a look, for example, at the Jenkins file, this is what you will see. Like basically, we are using some global library which handles all the CI and CD stuff for you. How do you create a micro frontend? Well, there's nothing really interesting here except that the developer only sees React, right? They don't know they don't care about how we load the micro frontend. They just use some Sol framework libraries to get some state or to handle for the error boundary or some base components. And here in this particular case, we have something that we call host info, which is essentially providing data about the environment and the brand and the locale where your micro content is running in, right? So the developer is only working in React. They don't know about specifics of the framework, right? Once you are happy with what you did, you can just commit your code and push your code. By default, we have like a certain workflow. When you push code to main, you will get an environment deployed you will get your code deployed in the development environment. And when you're ready to deploy to production, you can use Sol, deploy, and choose your environment. So, okay, so we made all of this, but is there any benefit, right? So first of all, we now have, since we don't have a single repo or mono repo, we have repo per domain. And which makes things a lot easier for people to get onboarded. Like if you check out code and there is a ton of code inside, you need a map to navigate around. So if you have smaller repos, things get to be easier to understand especially for the new joiners. Then the second thing is the NPM is a problem for code, smaller dependencies. It takes like around 2 minutes to install some random micro frontend. NPM dev takes like a couple of seconds to do because the code is very, very small. And here I have to mention that we decided to use Vite for the new tooling. Previously we used Webpack. So this also benefits us for this in terms of speed here. CI pipeline now takes 10 minutes, and the thing is that we are even running more things in the pipeline. For example, we don't have regression testing anymore as a separate step. The regression testing is part of the main pipeline, and then there is no more QA approvals. We do continuous deployments now. So we manage now to do multiple deployments per day. Instead of a couple per week. And of course, the thing that I didn't mention is that now we also extracted the feature flags and translations and configs as a separate service. So now you can just make a change without requiring an additional deployment. Key learnings for us. So first of all, like for mid-size or small-size project, Microfrontends architecture would do more harm than good. Second, SSR makes things a lot more complicated. You have to think about executing the similar code or same code in two different environments. This is complicated to do, but Zach will talk about that, I guess. Also, one of the things that we had to deal with was caching and versioning. So we talked about that as well. This was also kind of a hard problem for us to solve. Second thing, like for us, it was, I should make a note here that for us, it makes sense to be agnostic, because we know that what we do right now is not going to be relevant in the future. And we did the migration from one code base to another, and it takes years for us to do that, right? So if we need to migrate to a different tool, to a different framework, to a different whatever, we need to be able to do so without actually rebuilding everything, right? So this is for us really, really key, right? And we will probably, like in this transition period, we will suffer in a bit, like in terms of performance, where we double load things or we don't do something in an optimal way, but we still can actually do this migration, which is for us key. So we have the Sol framework to keep everybody aligned, but this is key, right? If you don't have like a core team, like a platform team, however you want to call it, and like that provides guidelines for everybody to use, you have complete chaos. Like and the teams really have a lot of autonomy, but there should be at least a framework which gives you an easy way to do the right thing, right? So that's the important stuff. I mentioned Soul and what it does in terms of automation, creation of the CI pipelines and everything. But also we do a lot of other automation. For example, we have Renovate to manage dependencies between repositories. So these things become very easy. We have automation to manage deployments, to make changes to the CDN. In our case, it's Akamai. This is also something really important, etc. Right? So, and we are investing in this more and more. Continuous improvement, of course, we know that the things that we are doing today will not be effective tomorrow. So we know that we are going to change things as we go. For example, things like sharing state or how we do versioning, and these things will change. And one of the things which I think it was mentioned before, for example, how do you get like a overview of everything that's running out there? That's something that we are currently busy with, right? So with that, I would like to say thank you to Aris and CityJS for inviting me and for organizing all of this. And thank you all for listening.